Welcome to the Ground Hire. We are an executive board for Christian business owners.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome.
That is.
Yeah. Well, this is the launch of episode number 2 for the Ground Hire podcast. I'm here with Shawn, Rendell, and the founder, Norman Katayama.
Yep.
So, Norman, why don't you go ahead and introduce our wonderful guests for today?
Okay, be my pleasure. I'd like to first introduce Rendell Bourg, who stewards National Fire Protection, LLC. And I would like to introduce Shawn Kurihara, who stewards Society Contracting, LLC. Welcome, gentlemen.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, welcome, guys. So, both of you guys have been a part of the Ground Hire for, Rendell, how many years has it been for you?
17 years.
17 years. And Shawn, how many years?
Around 15 years.
15 years. So there's something special, right? There's a reason why you guys have stuck around and you've been through all of the stuff. You've seen all the highs and lows of a lot of people.
Yes.
And Norman has been there every step of the way.
Yes.
So perhaps we could start with you, Shawn. Share a little bit more on your journey of when you first came in. Any key things that come to your mind, any milestones, any moments where you can think of in the last 15 years you've been a part of Ground Hire that really sticks out to you, where the Ground Hire helped you to overcome this, or helped you to grow your business, or helped you in different ways?
Well, first of all, I was invited by Rendell, sitting right here. At first, I didn't know what C12 was when I originally got invited to be a part of this great community.
Mm-hmm.
And through much persistence and, sometimes aggravation from Rendell of getting me to this meeting, I reluctantly came to one of the meetings and instantly knew right off the bat that this is where I needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's just funny how God, kind of orchestrates certain things for us to be at certain places. And right off the bat, I knew that this was a community or organization for me and my company to be at. And throughout the years of seeing Ground Hire evolve from C12, Summit Trek, Higher Ground, and then now Ground Hire, it's just like in life, we go through these changes and seasons of life, and to see Ground Hire where it's at now, it was through much progression. A lot of people came and went. But the number one value, I believe, for me and my company, and especially my family, that I found through Ground Hire was, just the camaraderie, just the camaraderie of the men that are like-minded, like faith, with almost the same purpose, and it's to love God and love people. And that's what really allowed me, or for me personally, to stick with Norman and the Ground Hire is that where else are you going to find a community like this that they want to see you succeed?
Right.
Other businesses. I mean, I got people that are in Ground Hire. There's other companies and businesses in Ground Hire that so-called are your competitors.
Yeah.
And there's no competition in this Ground Hire. It's just people that want to see you succeed. They want to see your families grow. They want to see your marriage succeed. And if you're struggling, well, they open up their business and help you.
Right.
Through our monthly core presentations, and a lot of times, as men, we got pride, and we don't want to open up ourselves, and to other men. But the community at Ground Hire, they really break that down. And now you're hearing other men, give their core presentations and speak of all their issues, and like, I'm going through that same experience. That really helped me. I thought I was the only one struggling with my marriage or my business or things in life, but Rendell's going through the same struggles. Maybe not the exact same thing, but if he can come out of it, there's hope for me. And that's really the value for me that I get out of Ground Hire, going once a month. And along with the monthly coaching from Norman, he's just imparting so much, and so that's what I look forward to every month.
So it sounds like you've been able to not only grow your business, but you've been able to grow in multiple ways over the last 15 years. And, some groups like, I believe it's BNI, right? You can only have one industry expert in the group, right? So that there's no competition and things like that. But there are other competitors within your industry in the group. But it almost seems like the ground hire exists at a higher level where we're not looking at each other as competitors, but as people who are building for a greater purpose and building the kingdom, really. So before we go to Rendell, I want to ask you about Shawn. So from a coach's perspective, right? You got Shawn, he's 15 years in the program. Talk about how, let's say Shawn version 1.0, maybe there's 2.0 and 3.0, but to who Shawn is today and the growth that you've seen as his coach over the last 15 years.
I think the greatest value that Shawn has been to the ground hire is Shawn is a Bible school attendee and graduate. So he has a knowledge of the Word of God that is above most of the other members who's never been to Bible school. So when we do have our devotional teaching at the beginning of our meetings, I would always ask Shawn, I try to give him the last word of how does this devotional teaching how does that apply to each one of our lives? That will be one question. And I know at the end of the meeting, after we had our business segment, I would try to keep Shawn, give him the last word to say, well, now how does this business segment apply not only in our businesses, because it's focused on the business, but there are principles in this business content that also applies in our own personal lives or even in our families. And I would always ask Shawn his input, and Shawn would always give a great closing, a great dissertation, the Word of God. And that's something I could always count on him. And that actually has increased, or I should say has always gone deeper because of his life, being married to a beautiful wife who supports him, as well as 4 great children that he supports, and they love him. And I see that. That's a testimony. And I have seen that journey. I still remember the children all young, little keikis. Now they're all grown, and wow, I'm proud, very proud of Shawn for what he's done.
And I think we talked earlier about wealth, and a lot of times people just see that as a monetary thing. Well, how much is your net worth? How much is your business making? But it sounds like in the ground hire, you guys talk so much about family and faith. And these things are also wealth. And so to have 4 kids that love you, who are following the Lord, and you have a great relationship with them, that's wealth that the world doesn't see often, especially in successful business owners like yourself. So I want to pivot now to Rendell. My first interaction with you, or the first time I got to hear you speak, it was about how much taxes you owed and how much you were able to overcome that. But into leading up to that story, could you share about your business journey in a quick, just 30 seconds, where you started to where you are today?
Well, I got invited by Dave Asado City Construction, and I thought this is above my level, whatever, the C12 that time. This is something I'm just a lowly electrician, that happened to have a company. But, I still drove my old beat-up van, come to these meetings at Hawaii Prince. I'm thinking, I'm embarrassed to even have my truck come over here. But so I didn't think I would ever fit in, per se. Because, there's contractors, there's CPAs, you've got all these, I didn't even have a dress shirt, But anyway, we started to fit in, and they encouraged me to act like an owner. One of the biggest things I think that helped me, and it didn't happen overnight. They said, you got to stop working in your business. You got to work on your business. I said, what? Can you draw a picture of that thing? Not in my business. I go so much involved with the work every day. I never thought about the bigger picture. I never thought about, what does that mean to work on your business? And Norman would tell us, you got to look from above, like a drone. I'm going, look at above. I don't see much. I just see a lot of work. So that really helped me to understand that part. And then I was able, through, like I said, what Shawn said, the community of people and believers help encourage and help me to understand that, I just can't keep working the way I was working and just look at the whole big picture and think all these all the teachings that have happened over the years, it's just to helped me to open up my mind more. As far as my personal life goes, like I said, my wife was very happy that I got counselors amongst me, because I'm the kind of I'm the kind of guy that just couldn't say no to anybody. I'd say to the company, "Oh, can you do this for me?" "Yeah, oh, sure." "Can you do this?" "Yeah." Before you know it, I was booked myself.
Yeah.
You only have so many hours in a week, yeah? So my wife used to get mad at me about that, because who would suffer would be the family, yeah? "Oh, so I got to work, honey, so I don't have time for it." Yeah. So eventually I got realizing that, I have to learn how to nicely say no, or manage things better. And I think through Ground High, that really helped me to settle my life down, to get a better perspective on what it was. And matter of fact, even the accounting part of it. We were growing up. I know math. I mean, I went to school, got math, but I didn't know about profit and loss and balance. I didn't know what a balance sheet was. I just knew go out there and make some money.
Yeah.
So it really helped me to understand these things. That helped me to grow from just an electrician. I remember the one thing I was so, because everybody else seemed so polished. They seemed like that. On the outside. And I used to grumble. One time I told Norm, "Well, you guys got BMWs, and look at me, I got my old work truck downstairs. Look at that. It's so embarrassing. I went and parked it in front of the hotel."
Yeah.
And they finally convinced me to get a nice car. He just happened to be one of the guys who was a car dealership in our group. And he set me up, and I went to the car dealership to get a car. I always had work trucks. I always drove a truck.
Yeah.
It made a lot of noise. And the guy, I come back, I said, "Guys, I got myself an Escalade."
A nice big truck.
Yeah, nice. It's a truck.
Yeah, right.
But it was a nice truck.
Yeah.
And then I could park in front of the hotel.
Yeah.
So look at, that's my truck down there.
Yeah. And so you came in as the guy driving the beat up truck.
I came out of Sanford and Son. You know Sanford and Son?
Yeah.
I was Sanford.
Okay. Yeah. So that's how you came in.
Yes.
And fast forwarding to today.
Yeah.
Are you still operating your business, or?
I sold it.
Okay. So
Sold it just before COVID.
You've had an exit.
Yeah, that exit.
Okay. So speak to that. You went from having the beat up truck, showing up to Ground Hire.
Yeah.
This guy just got a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah.
To fast forward today, you have successfully sold your business.
Right.
And was it one? Was it two? What? How does that look?
So the one business, National Fire
Okay.
Protection.
Okay.
So back just before COVID, I think was it 2004? We had a speaker came in. Norman got a speaker in, and it was an economist person. Yeah, got his name. Was it Doug or something like that? But anyway, he came in and told us about that was the first year Trump came in. What was it? 2004? No.
No. Trump was 2017. His first term. Yeah.
First term.
Yeah, first term.
Because the economy was growing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember he said something about the economy is growing so well that there's going to be some kind of recession, some kind of fallout, and because there's not enough workers, and so I thought, oh my, maybe it's time for me to sell. I already asked my two sons if they were willing to take over, and we had some other guys in our organization that were trying to give to the children. And some didn't work out too well, yeah? You give your kids the company. I was like, okay, which one's in charge, which one's not, So I had to realize through Ground Hire that I think the idea of giving the company to my two sons would not be a good idea, because they're going to fight over it, whatever it be. So I asked them, politely, I said, hey, you guys want? Nah, they kind of didn't really want it. So at that time, I knew I had to go sell if I wanted to sell. Especially when the economy said there's going to be like a recession. I was just burned out. I was burned out already. And sure enough, through Ground Hire, I had a luncheon one day, and I never forget, the guy told, well, why don't you call this company? He might buy you. And I was able to sell just before COVID came.
Wow.
And it was a godsend time for me. So
Yeah.
Through the counseling of Ground Hire, being there, hearing the people that have spoken to our life, I was able to make those timely decisions.
Yeah.
Very timely decisions.
If I could ask, so what were you making when you first started, and what would be, you don't have to give the number, but what would be the kind of a ballpark of your exit?
$900,000 when I first took over the company.
Okay.
And then grew. I try to tell myself grow at least 20% a year. Which I think I did until I hit this one big project for the Navy, and I ended up growing too much. So I ended up over the period of, 17 through 20, through the, whatever it is, 12 years or so, I grew up to $8 million a year.
In annual revenue.
Revenue, yeah.
Wow. So from 900 to 8 million.
50 employees.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then I grew up all the islands. I told you about all the I had offices in all the islands, the major islands, five offices.
Yeah.
Like two, 3, 4, 5, 5. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
Hilo,
incredible.
Kona, yeah.
Okay.
So that's when I grew. That main thing, I grew the whole state of Hawaii. That was my goal, pretty much, to have our office on every island that we could represent. Yeah, because nobody else had done that.
Right.
I thought, well, I should do that. Because at that time too, there people were asking me, like Burger King and all these franchise places were saying, hey, we don't want to deal with 5 different fire protection companies throughout all the islands. We'd rather you just go. I said, so I had to realize I had to do that. So
Yeah. So you were able to service these bigger companies because you had the office locations,
But
and
people-
competitors didn't have that.
they didn't have that. They had to send people from the outer island. And
Okay.
outer island people don't like when someone's not from their own island yet. The
Right.
trouble calls.
Yeah.
Verizon was one of the bigger ones that really pushed me to do that.
Okay.
Verizon was expanding. Yeah.
So that's one of the things you're able to implement to grow your business
Yeah.
and start getting those bigger contracts.
It was a long journey, but I tell you, open up offices on the other islands. Yeah,
Right.
it was good.
Well, coming out the other end, it sounds like you've had a successful exit.
Yep.
And you're enjoying life now.
Yes.
You're doing whatever you want.
Yes, whatever
spending
I'm
time
doing.
with family
I'm
anytime
doing this
you
right
want.
now.
Yeah, we're here today. Well, let me ask you this, Norman. So as Rendell's coach for the last 17 years, if there is one thing that stands out more so than the other in terms of growth, what stands out to you as his coach in the way that he's grown?
If you don't mind, kind of going into some of your private areas, but I think the counseling or the one-on-twos that I had with you and your wife, I think it stands out to me because that's something that was a challenge, I think, for usually wives to really understand what their husbands do. They don't know. And I had to be like the referee, for, when I spoke with both of you. And I know tears were shed, but yet I remember now, I think the relationship has been so much better.
Oh, yeah.
There was healing that took place.
Yep.
Because, us guys, we're kind of stupid, We don't know. Right? We don't know what we don't know.
Right.
And I tell you, when it comes to the opposite sex, we don't know anything about them. I still, I've been married 46 years and I still don't know what my wife's about, So I know that was a real a hurdle that you'd had to kind of pass over. And I feel like you're very successful. I look at you and your wife, I think you have a very successful marriage.
Yeah.
I can tell that you both love one another, and more than that, I think there's that respect that there is one with another,
Yes,
more
there
from
is.
her to you now,
There is.
all that you've gone through.
Yeah.
Because I don't think she really understood what you were going through. So I think that would be the biggest one that I really remember.
Yeah.
So we talked earlier about when you join the ground hire. There's 3 things. You have the monthly owners meeting.
Yep.
You have the core presentation where once a year you present your business to the other members and you ask different questions. They give you feedback. And the other one is the once a month
One-on-one.
with the once a month one-on-ones with the different individuals. So Norman, share a little bit more on how that looks. Like, what do you do in these one-on-one sessions with these guys?
I just beat them up.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't.
Action
I
steps.
thought you said you feed us up.
Actually, you know what? They should answer that because I do this to all of my members every month for all these 19 years.
Yeah.
What do you guys get out of these one-on-ones? I'm really curious. I don't know. I mean, I go through my list of things, right, that I got to check off, right?
Yeah.
And we talk about pretty much the same things,
Yeah.
right?
Well, before we go to Shawn, so
Yeah.
what is that?
The
that
list?
checklist? Yeah, share what that list is. and
Okay,
then
well,
let's-
the first thing is, what do they get out of that monthly owners meeting? So
Okay.
right now we basically have 2 segments. One is the devotional teaching, and the other is the business best practices, which will help them and equip them and give them tools on what they can do to enhance what they're doing as a business owner. So we'll cover those areas. And I'll ask them if they have any other questions that during the meeting that they weren't able to ask. Maybe I can field those questions. Once we finish with that, then probably if I didn't cover it before that, I would always ask them, how's everything in the business? What's going on? Give me a recap. Give me a 3-minute recap of what's happened. And any bad things going on? Did you have to fire anyone? Did you hire anyone new? What are some situations in your, like for both Shawn and Rendell, they have contracts. I want to make sure that, this quarter, are they on top? Everything, going well financially? Because these are the things that I would write down and I pray for them. That's my job, is to support them through prayer. Then once we do the business part, then I'll ask them personally, how are you guys doing? Anything? And a lot of times they won't say anything, so I'll go to the next thing. I'll say, so how is your relationship with your wives? And talk to me about that. And then so they'll talk a little bit. I'll even ask them, so when is the next vacation planned? So I always make sure that they have something, that they're going to spend with their spouses and maybe their families. And then that is a segue into their children. I'll ask them how the children, I'll ask Rendell about his two boys. And unfortunately, Nathan, the oldest son, recently just passed away. But I'll ask him about Anthony. And then I'll ask Shawn about his three daughters and one son. That he's very proud of all of them. And just get a touch base on where they're at. And I make it a point to know all their names. So I can specifically ask them, so how's Sierra doing? And so he'll tell me. And then, of course, I'm always curious about David, because he's the son, and he was more into sports that I can relate to. And then so Sierra, Sydney, right, and then
Sage.
David, and then Sage. So always talk about that. And then the last two things I always say for last is how is their health? What are you doing for exercise? How is your diet? How are you doing how's your weight? And of course, with Rendell, I always have to kind of keep him on track on that.
So that's the beating up part. You're
That's
making
the
him do
beating up part,
burpees
yeah.
and push-ups and
I have
squats.
a personal trainer now because of him.
And then the last question is always, what are you doing to feed your spirit man? So I think part of my responsibility on these one-on-ones is really accountability, because they're not being accountable to anybody in their company. I know they're not accountable to their wives.
Ouch.
I know the wives tell them things, but they don't listen. So I just help the wives out by reiterating what they want their husbands to do. So that's part of my job. And then when we're done, I'll ask for if there's any other things that they want to mention. Are there other thoughts that you have, or any other questions? And I even I open up myself. Do you have any questions for me? And that usually ends our one-on-one time. Is that a
But you missed the key one there, I think. You got
Okay.
you got the owners meeting, right? You got the core business, right? And you have your one-on-ones. There's a thing called action steps.
Okay. Yeah.
Because you mentioned accountability.
Yeah.
And we love action steps. So we, as a group, normally after the end of our meeting that we have as a group, we have to put in our action steps. What the Lord spoke to us that we need to do spiritually, physically, and professionally. So we've been doing this for years, and that's accountability. And a lot of times we look at each other and we say, did you do your action steps? And as business owners, like you said, we who are accountable to. So sometimes I have to go home and ask my wife a question. She goes, is that part of your action steps? I say, yes, honey, it is. Help me answer it.
Right. Wow.
But that helps us with the spouse too.
Yeah, so that's good to know the action steps, because now that I'm thinking about it, that is a big part of it.
That is.
And then there's consequences.
Yes.
So that what's the consequence if you don't do your
There's a dollar amount attached to
Depends
every
dollar
one.
amount.
Yeah.
Okay,
Depends
how
which
much?
group you go to.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a dollar
Yeah.
amount connected to each action step you don't do, and at the end of the year, it gets donated to a nonprofit organization. So, it can hurt. I mean, in the beginning, it was like $5 or $10. Something. Now, I don't know, it's $100 each or something.
Oh, wow.
Depends on what group you're with. But there's
It's good.
There's fire behind those action steps.
Yeah,
and
yeah. So there's skin in the game.
There's skin in the
Yes.
game.
Yeah.
I think Norman should take it one level and ask us.
Yeah.
Okay, you said you was going to do this. What did you learn about it?
Okay.
Not just do it.
Not just do it. On the one-on-ones,
Right.
maybe Norman should say, okay, what do you get out of your devotions?
I think that's another differentiator for the ground hire.
Yes.
Is because you can go to a lot of these groups where you get, let's say, the head knowledge, like the equipping of certain tools, frameworks, and resources to grow your business. But at the end of the day, you have to execute,
Exactly.
right? You have to do the work, you have to do
Yeah.
the thing. And so with the action step, it's making you guys do the thing versus just keeping it up here in the head and, you know, saying, yeah, I'm going to do it, or knowing it's a good thing, but not following through.
Yeah.
So it's very, very actionable.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And it
Okay.
helps a lot because, you know, the other members
Yeah.
or the other business owners, they challenge you on some of, you know, like we were just talking about cleaning your desk. Like, how is that helping you? But it's organization, right? And, you know, sometimes you put off other things. And so they challenge, oh, really? We're going to let him, okay, you're supposed to read 3 books, 3 chapters. I only read 2.5.
Well,
So it's like,
Yeah.
so Norman always puts it back on us. Should we give him a pass? Well, did he read 3 chapters? Did he read 2.5?
sometimes we put things bigger than we should. Yeah, and we
Yeah.
got to be careful about that.
Oh,
Norman
Norman
helps us
always
with that.
challenges us on
Right.
that.
Sometimes we say we're going to do this. We're going to read the whole book. No, you don't read the whole book in 30 days. I said,
Right,
well,
right.
maybe not.
And so with the one-on-ones that Norman does with you guys, and this question will be for both of you as we're going to wrap up soon. Can you think of a one-on-one session that you had with Norman that is just really stands out, where you know, maybe it was a good thing, maybe there's some stuff that happened that he really held your hand through and just carried you through that time,
absolutely.
or was there to celebrate?
Well, with Norman, every one-on-one session is mind-blowing. It's an eye-opener because he always has a word. He's always telling me that, you know, in my prayer time, God showed me this about you, and he always makes sure that I get that word, or he's always challenging me. I remember one-on-one. I went back after the one-on-one, and I told my wife, I said, I'm so mad at Norman. He challenged me this thing, and he didn't understand. I was like, okay, I'm not going to go one-on-one anymore because, you know, he's different to contrary of what I was believing. But part of having a coach is just opening yourself up and receive. You know, in a multitude of counsel, there is safety. But if I'm not open to counsel, correction. You know, we sometimes say correction is just redirection. Because we want to do our thing our way. But if we allow our coach to speak into our lives, if we allow Norman to speak into our lives, if we allow God to speak into our lives, if we allow Rendell to speak into our lives, then God will open up that door and he will show us things.
Right.
You know, just like how in prayer God told that guy to you know, just pray for Jim. I don't know. But do we stop long enough to listen? Do we pause long enough to listen to the voice of God? And God will use Norman, Rendell, Matt, you know, even this room, these settings, and you know, we just have to pause long enough so that we can hear. And that's why in one-on-ones with Norman, you know, sometimes I always cancel, but you know, I need to be at my one-on-ones because it refuels me, it refreshes me, and redirects me my focus back. And in the one-on-one, you got to be honest, because Norman knows. He just looks at you like he's looking at me now. He's like,
sees right through you.
He sees right through me. He said, really?
Yeah.
See right through.
So he challenges.
Right.
So one-on-ones with Norman is challenging.
Yeah.
It's encouraging,
Yeah.
and it's edifying.
Yeah.
And like he said earlier, he knows my kids.
Right.
Not too many people know the names of your children.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it's assuring because I know if he knows my name, he knows the kid's name, he knows my wife's name, it means he's praying for them.
Yeah.
You know, and it's very, very rare that you find a mentor, a coach that does that. You got a lot of people say, I'm praying for you, Rendell.
Yeah.
But at the end of we leave here, I never pray for him.
And they don't know the kids' names. They don't know
name.
nothing. Yeah.
But with Norman, we know
Right.
he's praying for your kids because he calls them by name.
Yeah. So
It's very rare.
yeah,
Amen.
it sounds like the level of coach that you are, right? It's not you're just trying to help people to grow their business, but it goes so much deeper.
Norman is not trying to
life
get
coach.
something from us.
Right.
He's trying to impart to us.
Right.
And that's the
it's-
difference with Norman's coaching and other coaching that you may
Right.
have. Everybody's trying to get, okay, you got to pay this fee and this thing. It's like with Norman, it's like, oh, I want to impart what God is trying to get into you.
Right.
And
Right.
he's faithful in that area.
Right,
He's
right.
submitted and surrendered to listen to God.
Yeah.
So that he can be obedient.
Yeah.
Norman may not know why God is leading him this word. Like the last one-on-one or 2 one-on-ones ago, Norman gave me a word, and a word I needed. I never told him. I didn't share with him what I was going through, but he gave me a word that I needed. And that's because of his faithfulness and his obedience to the Holy Spirit.
Yeah. So it's multifaceted.
Multifaceted.
There's so many different things that you bring to the coaching sessions, and it's I would say it's even different to like a pastor,
Yeah.
because he can relate to you, at you with your business experience and your background. You can speak to so many different areas where maybe a pastor can't really relate on the business side, and to business owners on some of the struggles they go through, but you can. So we're gonna be wrapping up, but Rendell, I do want to get what is that one thing? Can you think of one session with Norman that really stands out amongst others?
Yeah, so the one that really got me was one day in a one-on-one, he asked me, why don't you ask your wife if she sees Jesus in you? Oh my goodness. I couldn't get myself enough courage to do that at first. I said, I don't know what she's going to say, and so finally I did, and she didn't say anything at first. And then she said, well, so I was like, oh no, maybe she doesn't see Jesus in me, because people want to see the Jesus in you, right? And I was like, oh no, but he helped counsel me. He said, no, it's okay, it's okay. My wife didn't quite see it right there at the beginning, but it's a different aspect, where I might not act like the evangelist or the one out there that's preaching, but I do help with finances or whatever I can do to help organizations like that. So, there is a little Jesus in me on that part, but that was the one that really got me, as far as family goes,
Yeah, awesome.
Boy, that's a tough question to
Right.
ask. Your wife,
Yeah, I don't know if I want to ask that.
I know, see, people don't want to do that, but I knew I had to.
Yeah.
That's my action step. I gotta do that.
Right. Wow, that's powerful.
That was powerful.
Yeah.
It was good.
So Norman, we're gonna wrap this up, but for anybody who is looking for a coach, or anybody who knows they're in a position where they're the ceiling, and having a mentor, having a coach, somebody to get them to that next level is extremely important for them to break through that glass ceiling. What would you say to those people as they're looking for somebody like that?
Well, I think you need this. Every business owner needs to have a mentor, a coach, someone that will hold you accountable. And that's hard. I mean, that's a hard pill to swallow, because as a business owner, you don't want to answer to anyone. Really. Right. And if I were talking to you face to face, you would probably agree with me. Like, yeah, you're right. Because I don't like to be told what to do. Yeah. But the reality, though, is that's what you really need. And Ground Hire has coaches that can do that. And sometimes, as Rendell says, we have to hold your hand through that situation. But other times, we're right there with you, side by side, fighting with you, sword in hand, fighting the demonic forces. And you need that too. And all I can say is, if you're interested in a community, I like what you said, Shawn. If you're interested in a community of other Christian business owners, and I make that clear, because you won't find a vice president, a general manager, or just a person that's in a business. These are business owners. So you are now amongst your peers. This Ground Hire is for you. I would encourage you to check us out. The first meeting you can come to, we're at the Prince Waikiki, and it's free. No obligation, no charge. Just check us out. Just come, sit, and experience what 3 hours of being around other like-minded men, what it's like. And I believe that your life will be changed.
Yeah. Well, so this kind of concludes our second episode of the Ground Hire podcast. We've had the pleasure of Shawn Kurihara, owner of Society Contracting. Yeah, and you guys have upwards of 50 employees. You're operating all across the islands. Incredible business, and you're stewarding it well. We have Rendell Bourg, who you started as the knucklehead, driving the bus-up truck to the Escalade, and having a very successful exit. Yes. And we have the pleasure of the founder, Norman Katayama here, founder of the Ground Hire for the last 19 years. And we started this segment, the Ground Hire is, and kind of finishing up, what is that? What are we? Who are we? And I think it's this right here, right? It's a community of businessmen and women who aren't just building, right, for the sake of monetary worth and for status, but you're building for kingdom purpose.
Exactly.
And we're here together doing it. So thank you guys for joining us. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you engage in all of the other content that we have for you, and we would love for you to join us. Aloha.